All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com, worldviewradio.com. Joining me now is Annie Cyrus. Annie is a regular broadcaster with us. She's associate producer with us at WVW-TV and Lindell TV. She was born in Iran. She's an American Iranian, and she has a show with Lindell TV every day at 2 o'clock Central Time. Annie, welcome back to the broadcast, 2:30 Central Time. Sorry. Welcome back, Annie.
Thank you for having me back, Brandon.
Okay, so we're on 60 Christian stations, as you know, plus Lindell live streaming. And many of us are very concerned about what's happening to our country as we approach Christmas. But the other night, I interviewed Rudy Giuliani. It was a 30-minute interview. People will find it on my website, wvwtv.com. I interviewed him basically to give him a chance to say, I told you so, because he warned on my show a month ago that Ukraine was being used for gigantic money laundering and kicking money back to politicians. And when I asked him, what, before he said that, I said, why are people in Washington not screaming and hollering about this? He said, because too many in Washington are on the take. They're getting some of this laundered money. Well, then this FTX cryptocurrency thing comes out, and we're getting reports of at least $100 million being kicked back to Democrats. He actually laughed when I said that. He said, that's small potatoes. That's small potatoes compared to what he knows, the numbers he's got. The FBI was offered this information that he had, he said a month ago. They didn't want it. Again, pointing to the massive corruption of the FBI. Now we're getting report, and so I asked him, as a former federal prosecutor who has 3 fatwas on his head, by the way, you've got 12. We talked about that. We talked about a wide-ranging list of topics. At the end of the interview, I thanked him right there live on TV. He said, no, thank you. This has been a great interview. And I think one reason he was so appreciative and commending the interview was because, A, we gave him 30 minutes. He said he's banned on places like Fox News and stuff now. But we also let him talk about a lot of so-called politically incorrect topics and get out the truth. I asked him what he thought about Todd Bensman's report that he broke with us in regards to a mosque with a nonprofit shoving Chechen Muslims over the border. He said, sounds like to me they're setting up for another Boston Marathon bombing. Annie, what are your thoughts on all this?
I'm going to be very honest with you. I don't think they are setting up for another Boston Marathon bombing. I think they are setting up for few Boston Marathon bombing. It's kind of like a coordinated attacks across America. For a few reasons I say that. Number one, the different angles of import is starting to get very curious. As an ex-Muslim, when I look at it, you have the Hamas members, you have the Taliban members, you have the IRGC and Hamas members, and now you have the Chechens and Uzbeks and Tajiks. This circle tells me this is way bigger than one attack. This needs to, whatever this coordinated attacks are that they're working on, they need not just more than one person to carry out the attack, but they also need more than one leader or brain behind the operation to put it together. I just based on the information I have and on the knowledge that I have, this is their biggest plan of attack. That's why they need different point of views from different most worst known Islamic jihadist groups to come together and put this plan together. That is my personal response to the news that you broke with Todd Bensman and everything else I'm seeing, including what is going on in Islamic Republic of Iran. You put all of that together, we're looking not at an attack, but probably a coordinated attack of, I would say, between 5 to 7 cities, big cities in America.
So you believe Mayor Giuliani was right when he said they're preparing for another Boston bombing type event, but in that you would say there will be many, not just one, there'll be many cities, and it will be coordinated. Do you believe it will be coordinated on the same day and at the exact same time?
Yes, I would believe that is exactly what they're going to happen, or what they're hoping to make happen. Same day, same time, 5 to 7 major cities in America.
And what kind of attacks? Are we talking, again, like shopping malls, restaurants, movie theaters, churches, synagogues? Are we talking soft targets like that?
To be honest with you, that is where I can't really put my finger on it. If they decide to come after us for a Christmas season, I think they might target mega churches as this Christmas Day or Christmas Eve celebration is going on. Because there are churches that I actually attended one back in 2015 when I want to say probably 5,000 Christians were in this mega church in California. It was a huge ceremony, and there were lots of, and that's the thing that makes it a lot easier because they're going to zoom in on the target, which is Christians only. But if not, if that's not something they can carry out, they're going to go with shopping centers and shopping malls of, where there's just everybody there. Because there was a regret by Al-Qaeda regarding September 11 that they ended up, they called the Muslims killed on the attacks martyrs, just passenger Muslims. But they were a little regretful that they ended up killing Muslims on September 11 because that wasn't part of the plan.
What's ironic is that many of these mega churches that could be targeted are some of the ones that have been pushing interfaith dialogue and refusing to let us rent their buildings starting in 2008. So from 2008 to 2018, for 10 years there, we had to go rent hotel ballrooms until the Islamists and the Antifa, Muslim Brotherhood types started threatening our ballrooms as they did in April of 2018 and causing our events to be canceled. But for 10 years, we had to leave the churches for the most part because they didn't want to hear this. They didn't want me bringing in a Usama Dakdok or Sharam Hadian or someone like you or others to speak on these issues. It was too negative, too negative. And what's sad is that many of these wimpy pansies in the pulpit led churches, quote churches, they're going to end up, I fear, if what you're saying is true, being targets, and they won't have a clue. They won't understand. They won't understand what just happened. And yet we were trying to warn them. They'll have a lot of dead people, sadly, but, they won't understand what happened, even though we've been trying to warn them.
And that's exactly correct. The fact that they think if they don't allow you, me, Yosama, anyone on their stages to inform people, then they have not provoked their radicals to come kill them. What they don't understand is, first of all, there is no such thing as radical. Saying radical Islam is kind of saying Sharia law. It's repetitive.
Yeah, because when you say Sharia,
radical.
Sharia means law. So if you say Sharia law, you're saying law. And so what you're saying, if you say radical Islam, what you're really saying
You're saying radical.
Yeah, because Islam is by itself radical based on their own books, their own dictates, their own doctrine.
Exactly. 51% of their holy book is about how to deal with non-Muslims based on two actions, convert or kill. 51% of this religion is about either convert them or kill them. I mean, if that's not radical, I don't know what is, at least to my knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, if Christians and Jews were running around saying convert or be killed, that would be considered radical, right? I mean, but if it's Muslims doing it, Islamists doing it, it's a religion of peace, Annie.
I know. It's like the only thing they preach is equality, coexist, and that's the thing. They have sold this idea of coexist to most of these mega churches, especially in blue states, not realizing they are just basically finding an open door to go in. For example, let's say just for sake of argument, if they try to target one of these mega churches that's involved with in the interfaith dialogue, a Muslim can easily walk in there and carry out the attack because Muslims are welcome in there anyways. They were there last week with their imam preaching Islam. It's just a much easier way to get in rather than if a Muslim walking to through Christian church, they won't be stopped, but they will stand out of like, wait, why is this Muslim guy here?
Yeah.
They would be approached by someone, questioned, like, welcome, are you here to listen to the sermon? But with the mega churches that are already involved with interfaith dialogue and having imams every Sunday, nobody's going to question anything. So let's go in and whatever the attack might be, it's a lot easier. And as I mentioned, the number of Christians that are already converting to Islam on their lies stamped as truth by their own pastors That on its own is a story that needs to be told, that nobody's talking about.
Look
They're
at
successfully converting Christians to Islam.
Look at this, self-described Christians. Yeah. Look at this headline here. Biden administration sends FBI after incoming Netanyahu government. So we not only this is by our mutual friend Daniel Greenfield. We not only have the FBI covering apparently for Jeffrey Epstein and sex trafficking, and covering for the Biden's crime and their suspicious activity reports coming from all these banks and their connection to 50 government different nation enemy states for the most part, according to the congressional press conference this morning. But now they're going to send the FBI is going to go after Netanyahu. I don't know what they think what authority they have over there, but despite putting some aggressively anti-Israel figures on the Israel PLO beat, the Biden administration has limited interest in the Jewish state. There were too many domestic concerns, and Russia-Ukraine had managed to suck most of the foreign policy oxygen out of the room. That may be about to change. After Israeli voters backed a center-conservative coalition to be led by Netanyahu, the Biden administration has fired the first shot even before the new government takes office. The inciting incident here is the death of Qatar's propagandist Shireen Abu Ali, however you say it, operating on behalf of the Islamic terror state Al Jazeera's network favored by jihadists from Osama bin Laden to Hamas. He died, or it's a he, right?
Yes.
He died while operating in a war zone back in May. No one is sure who killed. No, it's a her. No one is sure who killed her, but Islamic terrorists and Israeli soldiers were in a firefight at the time. The terrorists and their political allies blame Israel. They've tried to turn her into another Khashoggi, who with a permanent blood libel. The Biden administration predictably leaned into the narrative, but didn't go any further until now. The U.S. Department of Justice recently informed the Israeli Justice Ministry that the FBI has opened an investigation into the death of Palestinian-American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, who was killed in May, covering the Israeli military raid in the occupied West Bank. I mean, do these people really think they have authority over there? Are they that arrogant?
No. Well, they don't. I don't think they think they have any authority over there, but they just want to make sure that they're making it very clear that they are anti-Israel and they are not allies of Netanyahu. Honestly, that's the message I get from it.
So
First,
the FBI
Biden.
The FBI and the Biden regime is going to cover for sex trafficking, maybe be involved in human trafficking, according to the congressional press conference today. They're going to be involved in covering for it, if not promoting it, profiting from it, sexual scandals in the FBI beyond what you can imagine, and covering for one crime after another. And now they're going to go after Israel and encourage anti-Semitism.
Pretty much, yes. And it's interesting. By the way, I'm interested. I need to look this person up, this Shireen Abu Akleh, I think is the name, because I don't even know who she is. To be honest, I don't know. But it's very interesting. When was the last time FBI or Biden administration looked into all the Hamas attacks and killing the Jews in Israel? Did they ever look into that?
No, of course not. Of course not. And when we come back real quick, I want you to mention the gal that came out of the the replica of the Tower of Babel at the Commonwealth Games this summer. We mentioned this lady walking out with a hijab. I didn't know who she was. We got off the air. I found out from you who she is. I want you to comment on that. We'll also open the phone lines. Your comments, your questions, 1-800-347-9829, 1-800-347-9829. Again, I'm also working on some interviews that are going to blow your mind, folks, of some people I've got coming up. Don't go away. Phone lines open. Also, while we're on the air, we're getting reports of 326 dead, 15,000 arrested. If you guys want to show the screen from our friend Jihad Watch, Robert Spencer. 326 dead, 15,000 arrested. Security forces opened fire on protesters at Tehran metro station. You want to comment real quick, Annie?
Sure. Actually, the number of deaths has gone way over that. But yes, last night before that, and night before that, 3 cities in Iran were under fire, and I mean literally under fire. And it got so bad when the regime tried to blame ISIS for it. ISIS actually put a release out. It wasn't us, it was them. It was so bad, ISIS wasn't willing to take responsibility for it.
Oh, wow. Okay, quickly tell me about this lady that walks out of the Tower of Babel, as it appeared to be, during the Commonwealth Games with her hijab. Who is she?
Malala. Malala is a Pakistani activist, human rights activist, or women's rights activist. She was 15 years old when she got shot in the face by Taliban coming back from school when she wasn't supposed to go to school. She broke the law and went to school. Shot in the face. She survived the shot, had many surgeries. When she was 17, 2 years later, she won the Nobel Prize. And she became an activist for women and girls who are suffering under Taliban's tyranny. But she never ever blamed Islam for what happened. She continued wearing her hijab. She continued fighting against Taliban until a few years ago, she finally came out and said, all the Western people, you all need to stop provoking radical Muslims, and we can all live in peace and quiet. That was the time when many came to realize Malala, the young girl who survived the shotgun and is the messenger of freedom and liberty for women and children under Sharia, is not what people thought she is. She has been a huge part of interfaith dialogue. She has been promoting interfaith dialogue, promoting religion of peace Islam, Taliban bad, Islam great. And now apparently she's getting involved with more of the Great Reset and One World Order by being on that stage. She's 25 years old now. It's been 10 years since she became the popular face of liberty and freedom. But yours truly was one of the early people who kind of sort of called her out. I'm like, I don't think she's going to do the right thing. And she didn't, unfortunately.
And she didn't. You're generally almost always right in your predictions and trends, sadly, because it usually means bad things happen. Let's go to Dick in Maryland, line 2. Dick from Maryland. Thanks for calling in, Dick. Always great to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you, Annie and Brandon. I think this is interesting, what you're talking about, the people that are coming that might do 5 or 7 different attacks. Keep in mind that the enemy of all of those people are the people of the book. People of the book could be the big Bible churches, but it could also be the remaining people that follow the book like you and Annie do. So I think the attacks might even be assisted by the FBI. Think about the administration that doesn't like people of the book. They're talking about you guys being extremists. So I think some of the attacks could be directed at you and Annie, and I guess I would encourage people to take the attack seriously, and I appreciate that you're actually talking about this today.
So do you think the FBI would actually encourage people to murder us?
Just like remember the FBI was standing by when they went after Pamela Geller and Robert Spencer in Garland, Texas.
They were not only standing by, they actually followed them from Phoenix to Dallas and reportedly tear up Texas and stood off taking pictures. So the FBI apparently, according to Robert and Pamela in my documentary Sabotage, the FBI wanted them dead. The FBI, a few years ago, we sent them all kinds of documentation of credible XXX sexual assault, kidnapping, threats against us, to us. They did nothing. They showed, the lower agent showed interest. His bosses didn't care. Of course, we know the FBI and all these guys found a suicide note from Phil Haney 2 years later, not the way he would write, not his handwriting. So, yeah, I just want to be on the record. If I end up dead, you can pretty much guarantee the FBI or something from some federal agency was behind it or encouraged it. It may be an Islamist, but they will have had help doing it.
That's my point. I've seen the letters that you're talking about. I think it's very serious that the FBI, remember, Bush spoke last night, Obama's speaking tonight. They're talking about disinformation. The 2 former presidents are speaking back-to-back about disinformation. They're basically attacking verbally and justifying somebody else, maybe the FBI or the Islamists, coming after the people who promote disinformation. You guys are absolutely at the top of that list.
Annie?
I would say I agree. Yes, we are on top of that list. And if they can make it happen, blaming some lone wolf radicalized Muslim, they would prefer to get it done that way. There's a lot less heat on them. So I agree with that.
Yeah. You know what's really sad, Annie? Right now, we're able to spend a lot of our resources producing and putting out free information, free programming. So we get to take those resources and use them to put out great programs, documentaries, things we put out for free. And sadly, I have told our people very soon we will have to spend time raising money for A, legal fees to defend ourselves, and B, for security. The day is coming we will have to spend increasingly amounts of money just for security, if not for ourselves, for our family who work for us and around us. That's how bad it's getting in America. And if you had said that to someone a few years ago, you'll actually have to hire security because you're on radio and TV, and particularly Christian radio, as a Christian worldview commentator and author and news guy, because you're talking about Islam and communism and Marxism and what the federal government's doing, and you'll have to have security because your life will be at risk. People would think that's a joke. That happens in third world countries, not America. But that's coming. It's already here for some folks. And so that's wasted money that could be going toward programming and doing great things. That has to go toward fighting off lawfare and fighting off people that are trying to kill you or attack your family. And Dick, I don't know if you're still there. You said you read some of these emails. You can justify how graphic and XXX they were, right?
Absolutely, positively. They were directed at people that I know in addition to you, and I'm very familiar with the wording. It was unbelievably gross, both in terms of things like acid and sexual attack, etc. So absolutely know, I've got them, and I know all about them. And yeah, the other comment I would be is I think the people who listen to your program need to be preparing themselves. This is serious. They need to prepare themselves. Do they have a carry permit? Are they protecting themselves and their families? This is not going to get better. It's going to get worse.
Indeed. I wish we had time for more callers. Dick, thanks for calling. Chris, Pat, Todd, sorry. I didn't want to rush Dick along there because he again has inside and inside information on some of the things we're telling you about. He can verify that we're not exaggerating. Closing comment, 15 seconds, Annie.
Make sure to tune into my show tomorrow, Friday, 2:30 Central. I will have Representative Jim Jordan talking about the investigation into Biden family.
Whoa, you have Jim Jordan?
Yes, sir.
Wow. He did a great job at his presentation. Good for you. LiveUpToFreedom.com, LiveUpToFreedom.com. Stay tuned for Crosstalk with Jim Schneider. Take care.